So according to some Christians, there is a God, but not just any old God, a God who would subject the large majority of people on this planet to eternal suffering. And this is no exaggeration. 85% of the people on this planet are not even Christians. They therefore do not believe in that particular God that they believe in, and they certainly wouldn't accept Jesus Christ as their Savior. So those people are, by definition, doomed, according to those Christians. Some Christians, remember? So, it's not even as good as that. You know, it's much worse than 85%, because of the remaining 15%, the large majority, again, are Catholics, and again, apparently, those are beyond the pale of Christianity, according to some Christians. Isn't that interesting? So we're talking about a God who would, hazard a guess, send about 95% of all people to be subjected to eternal punishment. 95% of humanity do not stand a chance with this God. I don't know what you would call such an entity, but I would quite happily call such an entity the enemy of humanity. Nothing less than that. It will have no mercy for the large majority of people. But of course those Christians would then argue, well, you know, what choice do you have? You are dealing here with an all-powerful entity, the ultimate authority about what is right and what is wrong, and it says that not believing in it, not accepting Jesus as your Savior, is wrong and earns you eternal suffering. This is its justice. Whether you like it or not, those are God's laws. You are, by definition, a sinner. You deserve to suffer eternally according to God's law, and all we're telling you is that you should, if you know what's right for you, submit to those laws. What does that remind me of? Let me think. Ah yes, let's rewind the clock a little bit, and let's go back to the beginning of World War II, when the Germans steamrolled France. They were vastly militarily superior to the French forces at the time, and they very quickly occupied the country. Now, many French people reacted in many different ways. Some of them organized themselves in what became later known as La Résistance, and they kept opposing the Germans, of course. They tried their best with the limited means at their disposal to try and do something about this German occupation. But many French people took a very opportunistic approach to what had happened. They realized that the Germans, after occupying their country, had imposed a sense of stability to the country. A sense of calm had descended on France during the German occupation. They thought to themselves, look at it, most people are perfectly able to lead their life pretty much as normal, without too much of interruptions or anything like that. Everything's calm, everything is stable. Maybe this German occupation isn't so bad. And after all, they are, as far as we're concerned from our perspective, they may as well be all powerful. They are in control. They rule the roost. They make the rules right now. So we'll adapt. But they didn't just adapt, they started thinking, this is actually quite good. This is a good environment to be living in, and we should therefore cooperate with the Germans. We should make sure that this stability doesn't get dissolved. So they started collaborating with the Germans. They even managed to start convincing themselves that those who still opposed the Germans were troublemakers, rascals. They would go and destabilize a perfectly good, stable situation in their country. So eventually they convinced themselves that they were the people who were in the wrong. And they would even go as far as shopping those people to the Germans, who would then, of course, take them out and shoot them. Now, I don't know what you would call that sort of behavior, but in the end it is very clear that that amounts to treason. That's all it is. It's collaborating with the enemy, and it's called treason. That's what those people were guilty of. So if you are a Christian who will collaborate with your God, who is clearly an enemy of humanity, you too are in fact a traitor to humankind. Think about that for a moment before you start proselytizing again about how we should all accept Jesus as our Savior, or else we are doomed. No, we should stand up and be counted Vive la Résistance and all that good stuff. And you are just despicable. You're a traitor. Of course, like all analogies, this eventually does break down. After all, even though you could see this as metaphorically as a sort of treason, it isn't the same sort of treason as the one that would, cause a person to betray their country. But it is still very important to think along that line. You are betraying your own innate humanity, your own ability to empathize with other people. That is what makes you so intransigent towards other faiths. That is what makes you so blasé about talking about things like eternal suffering, as if that would be somehow acceptable under any circumstances. So nobody is going to tell you that you should be put up against the wall and shot. Don't worry about that. But I can tell you one thing. Whenever I hear somebody like you talk about eternal suffering and about people going to hell, do not expect me to sit here silently and take it all in. No, that ship has sailed, my friends. That time is past. From here on in, whenever anybody starts talking about eternal damnation, about condemning their fellow human beings, expect to be opposed by people like me. You're not going to get away with it anymore. That time is long gone. You will be exposed for what you are. Other than that, don't fear any punishment. You will not get any, you don't deserve any. But you will not sit there and condemn people unopposed anymore.